Hi, this is Tina Monk with Natural Suds and More. This is my liquid soap making video. I'm going to try to break this down and make it as easy for you as possible, and especially for beginner liquid soap makers. And I get my potassium hydroxide, which is what you need for liquid soap. I get it from brambleberry.com, and I also use their lye calculator for this. And I want you to listen to the sound that the potassium hydroxide makes as I'm mixing it in. It's very interesting, this groaning, swishing sound that the potassium hydroxide makes, and it's very normal. And I do not mix my lye solution together until my oils are at least 160 degrees. And when you're making liquid soap, you need to pretty much clear your day. It's going to be a 6 to 8 hour thing that you're going to have to keep checking on and keep stirring. And it's very time consuming, but I want to break this down for you so that you can, hopefully, if you've been struggling with this, then I'm going to give you some good pointers today to help you out. So you want to make sure your oils are 160 degrees or slightly above before your hot lye mix goes in. The lye mix is right after it clears and it's going in, so everything is hot. And the potassium hydroxide solution tends to cool down a little bit quicker than the sodium hydroxide does. And there is a lot more water in liquid soap recipes because it is such a long cook. And this recipe is 80% olive oil, 5.7% castor, and 14.3% coconut oil. And depending on how much coconut oil you use, it really affects how your soap traces and how it cooks and how easy it is to stir. And I really only recommend, if you're just trying to do liquid soap, to just use those 3 oils. Those will give you the best results for liquid soap, and you will get a clear soap. And it also, getting a clear soap also means that you've cooked it long enough. And if you use any oils that have unsaponifiables like shea butter or palm, you're going to get a not clear soap when you go to do the test, and I'll talk about that later. And also, if you use any unsaponifiables, over time, usually within a few weeks of your soap sitting there, it's going to clear at the top, and then all the unsaponifiables will sink to the bottom, and you get this white layer. And I'll show you that at the end, because I did that a year ago. I think I did a recipe just to see how that would work. But so I'll show you that at the end. But if you don't use any coconut oil, your soap is going to separate out on you. It's going to take a lot longer to come to trace, and it's going to be a little bit harder it's going to be a little bit more work to try to get it together. But eventually it will come together, and then it'll trace, and then you'll just have to keep cooking it. And this recipe is a lower amount of coconut oil, a little bit lower than I normally do. So this actually took about 30 minutes to really get it thick enough. And if you only use coconut oil, which I do for my liquid laundry soap, and that will get so thick so fast, and it's going to be so hard to stir. It's like these hard clump mass that you have to keep trying to break up and stir. So it just really depends on what your recipe is and how this works for you. And you want to make sure you have enough room to work in your pot. So this recipe actually, it fluffed up like crazy, and it was at the top after it came to trace. And so it's just one of those things you have to keep an eye on, and you have to keep stirring on and off all the way throughout the cook. And you can see it starts to get a little bit foamy, and that's normal too. But I always recommend, if people have never made soap before at all, that you start with lye safety and you start with cold process soap, and then when you feel confident, try hot process soap, and then if you feel more confident after that and you want to try liquid soap, go for that. Because I didn't try liquid soap until I'd been doing this for quite a while. You just want to make sure that your soap batter is staying above 160 degrees. So if you need to adjust your crock pot, do. If you need to up it, or if it's getting too hot, you need to bring it down a little bit. And you can see here that it finally got thick. Took quite a while. And also, if you have made liquid soap before and you have some paste, you can actually add a couple tablespoons of paste at that point, and then it'll help speed things up a little bit. But here is the mashed potato stage. And depending on your recipe and, you know, temperatures and everything like that, the stage is going to, the time frame for this is going to vary. But you just want to keep coming back to stir it. You can put the lid on it, and you can just don't go too far so this doesn't boil out of the crock pot, and then you're going to have a mess on your hands. So you just need to keep an eye on it. And this really fluffed up quite a bit in the crock pot. So it's just one thing to think about. The coconut oil, the higher the amount, it won't do this. It's going to be so hard you're not even going to be able to stir it. You're like trying to beat it. And the lower the coconut, and if you don't have any coconut, then it's just completely different how this works. But just keep stirring, and keep checking on it so it doesn't boil out of the pot on you, and eventually you're going to start seeing some gel phase start happening along the edges, like this. So you just need to keep coming back and keep stirring, and it's very time consuming, but you can get a natural soap that doesn't have the surfactants and all that stuff that you buy in the store that you don't want. So, and at this point, it's like, it doesn't look like there's much change happening throughout this batter, but there is. So this was a little bit different. The gel phase actually wasn't as noticeable in this until I let it sit. And after I'd done the cook between 6 and 8 hours, depending, then after about, if you want to start testing for the mug test at 5-6 hours, and if you don't want to do the mug test, you can always test with phenolphthalein, but if you do that, just make sure that whatever part of the soap that you test goes in the trash, because that is poison, the phenolphthalein. And in the phenolphthalein, if it's neutral, it'll be clear on the soap, and if it's not neutral yet, it'll be really bright, hot pink, like a dark pink. In the mug test, all you do is take a couple tablespoons of paste, or 1 tablespoon of paste, and then you just add some hot water to it. And if it clears, and then your soap is done. And I'll show you that in a little bit here. But if your soap dilutes and it's milky or cloudy, it's not done yet. But also, if you've used unsaponifiables, you won't get a clear soap either. You won't get a clear test. So then you'll have to use the phenolphthalein just to make sure that it's done. And some people, they don't really care if the soap is clear, but if you've cooked it long enough and the oils are right, you're going to get a clear soap. So, and also the dilution rates for the soap are different. If you're using all coconut oil, you're going to dilute at a 1-to-1, 1 cup of paste to 1 cup of distilled water. And always, always, always dilute your liquid soap with distilled water only. Hard water will make it go white. It'll look milky, and then you might get some nasty things growing in there. And that's the clear mug test. This actually was at about 7 hours of the cook time here. But because this is a lower amount of coconut oil, I recommend a dilution rate of 3-to-1. 3 cups of distilled water to 1 cup of paste. And if you use a higher amount of coconut oil, I would go with a 2-to-1. And I haven't had any problem going any more than 3-to-1, like if I haven't used any coconut oil at all. But that's just something you're going to have to play with, because when you start diluting, you're just going to have to keep track of the temperatures and see how it goes for you. And if you get a skin that forms on top, you have still have undiluted soap, and you need to add a little bit more water. So, and this is what happens. I leave the paste sit overnight, and then I get this translucent gel looking paste. I always, always, always leave it sit overnight, and then I deal with it the next day. And there's a huge change that happens in the paste when it sits overnight. And then this, I'm just doing a little bit of dilution here just for the video. And then do make sure that any leftover paste that you have goes into a airtight container. I use Ziploc bags, and then it goes into the fridge. Liquid soap is not a friend to air. Like bar soap, we need to have it, have contact with the air, but liquid soap cannot. It will go bad. So make sure that you have it in an airtight container, and I keep mine in the fridge in the Ziploc bags. And I only dilute what I need. And because this does take so much time, I make a really large amount of paste at once, and then I dilute as I need, and it saves me more time down the road, because I do have a full-time business as well, so I try to maximize my time as much as I possibly can. But never dilute with anything other than distilled water. Don't use tea or milk or anything like that. You're asking for problems. You can use a preservative called Set-Aside A, which is formulated for higher pHs, but you don't have to. But if you're going to be selling and you're worried about people adding water in, because a lot of people do, that's something that you can think about to add if you're going to be selling it. If you know you're not going to be adding anything else to it, then you don't need it. But people will try to dilute it and add different things to it, and even though it's written on there, do not add anything but distilled water, people can still do it. So after it's all diluted, which depending on the temperatures and everything else, it can take 8 to 10 hours, but I usually leave it sit overnight, and then if I come back and there's a skin, I'll add a little bit more water, or whatever you need to do just to make sure it gets all diluted. And like I don't care if it gets really thick. I actually prefer the thinner soap. I like Dr. Bronner's liquid soap. His is really thin, and what I'm adding here is a 20% salt solution, and this can help thicken it a little bit naturally. And you're going to use the regular table salt with iodine, but I still don't get a very thick soap with this. But you can use unnatural thickener like Crotix, but there's several other things, and I do talk about all of this in my ebook as well, and this will be hyperlinked in there. And I have a ton of information in my Soap Making Handbook Volume 1, and there's a huge section on liquid soap making in my ebook. which is almost done. So if you want the ebook, it's going to be a total soap making guide from beginner to expert, and it's I go over in-depth cold process soap, hot process soap, and liquid soap, and I go over how to make your recipes and fatty acids and so much information. And I do have another video on my YouTube channel of a preview of the ebook if you're interested in that too. And you can subscribe at my website, naturalsudsandmore.com, and you will be notified when the ebook is available, and it will be very soon. But after the dilution rate and after it's cooled and you've added your thickener and your fragrance oils and whatever you want, and keep in mind if you do add some fragrance oils or essential oils, they can cloud your soap. So you want to make sure you have a clear soap before you add those, and you want to do some test batches to see what will cloud it and see how it works with the soap. But then, after the bottling, you just want to make sure that it's airtight, and you can see that it's clear. And do keep in mind, though, even if you get a clear soap and your liquid soap gets cold, it will cloud up. So the biggest points are just throughout the cook, just make sure the temperature stays above 160. Keep an eye on it. Keep coming back to stir. And just make sure you have a 0% super fat in your recipe so you don't have any excess fat. And then you make sure that you will be able to get a clear soap doing that. So hopefully this helps you out a lot too. And then if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And it's really hard to say everything in a short video, which is why I have the ebook as well too. But after you get the bottling done, you can label. And I'm going to show you here, I made this about a year ago, this liquid soap, and it had shea butter and palm oil in it. The rest of the soap cleared, and then the unsaponifiables left a white layer at the bottom. And if you shake it back together, it will cloud the soap. It will like incorporate, and it'll so that I just don't particularly care for, and it's just not that appealing to me, and I don't think it wouldn't be as much to customers either if they pick up the liquid soap and there's a layer at the bottom. But if you use the oils that I talk about, it's going to help you get a clear soap and you won't have any issues. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more videos. And please follow me at my Instagram if you have it, at naturalsudsandmore.com. And please subscribe to my website. And thank you so much.